Hey guys, thanks for being here. Before you listen, could you please hit that subscribe button, as most of you listening aren't subscribed? It'll really help this new channel grow. Thank you. I remember every detail of that fateful night with Jessica. Her smile, her laugh, the way her green eyes lit up when she looked at me. It's all seared into my memory. We met on a Saturday night at a crowded downtown bar. I was out with some buddies, and she was there with a girlfriend. We got to talking at the bar counter while waiting for drinks. She was gorgeous, shoulder-length brown hair framing her face, jeans that hugged her just right, and a flirty attitude that drew me in. We hit it off right away, talking about our favorite sports teams, bands we liked, embarrassing college stories, and more laughs than I could count. Last call came too soon. As we walked out together, I worked up the nerve to ask for her number. To my delight, she happily punched it into my phone and told me to call her. Over the next few weekends, we met up for classic dinner and movie dates, along with romantic walks through downtown holding hands. Things were going great. She was easy to talk to about anything and always down for a new adventure. About a month after we started dating, I invited her over for a homemade dinner at my apartment. I spent all afternoon preparing her favorite meal, lemon pepper salmon with rice and asparagus. I even stopped to pick up a bouquet of her favorite lilies and lit candles around the room to set the mood. Right on time, she knocked on the door looking as beautiful as ever. I greeted her with a long hug, breathing in the sweet floral scent of her hair. She oohed and awed over the table I had set and gave me a quick kiss on the lips. "This is so sweet of you," she said with a touched look in her eyes. Dinner conversation flowed easily as we ate and sipped wine. She told me funny stories about mishaps at the office and her attempts to keep her unruly houseplants alive. I made her laugh with tales of my basketball league teammates' antics and my rocky college days. After cleaning up the dishes together, we settled onto the couch with another glass of wine. I put my arm around her shoulders as she nestled into me. We talked about dream vacations, childhood memories, ideas for future dates. Sitting there with her tucked under my arm just felt so right. Over the past month, I had really started to fall for this girl. Here in this moment, I was happier than I had been in a long time. Then came the lull in conversation. Her body tensed up slightly as she sat up to face me. She looked nervous about something. My stomach sank. "What's up?" I asked lightly, trying to ignore the sense of dread creeping over me. She hesitated, not meeting my gaze. Then she took a deep breath and delivered the blow that would shatter my bliss. "Well, the thing is," she stumbled over the words, "I'm actually married." I felt like the wind had been knocked out of me. The room started spinning as my brain tried to comprehend this bomb she had just dropped. Married? How could she be married? I sat there stunned, opening and closing my mouth, but unable to form any words. So many questions were racing through my mind. Eventually, she broke the tense silence. She explained that she had been married for a couple of years, but it was a disaster of a relationship from the start. Her husband was controlling. They argued constantly. He didn't treat her well. They were basically separated in all but legal paperwork. That's why she never talked about him during our dates. She claimed she just didn't want to scare me off before we got to know each other, and she was planning to file for divorce soon anyway. She pleaded for understanding and swore things were over between them. My emotions were spiraling out of control. Confusion, anger, betrayal. This amazing woman I had fallen for had been lying to me about something huge. How could I ever trust her again after this? I felt so stupid looking back at our dates and conversations, realizing her husband was part of her life the whole time. What else could she be hiding from me? When I confronted her about the deception, she took my hands and looked into my eyes with desperation. She said she truly cared about me and wanted us to be together once she left him. But the damage was done. I abruptly stood up, saying I just couldn't do this anymore. I showed her the door as she protested and tried to apologize. My perfect romantic evening was ruined. Alone again, I collapsed onto the couch with my head spinning. I ignored her barrage of calls and texts over the next few days. I was still processing it all and trying to nurse my broken heart. My best buddy told me I absolutely did the right thing. Who knows what other lies she had up her sleeve? I deserved better than someone who could so easily betray my trust. I knew he was right, but it still hurt. Eventually, her attempts to contact me stopped altogether. I tried my best to move on, but the experience definitely left me wary of opening up to someone new again too fast. It was a painful lesson in taking things slowly and not blindly trusting a pretty face. Looking back now, I'm glad I found out the truth before I fell even harder. But I'll never forget the sting of that night, the moment she revealed her secret and my world came crashing down around us. It just goes to show you really don't know a person until they decide to let you all the way in. I learned that the hardest way possible. I should have listened to my gut right from the start, but sometimes you want to give people the benefit of the doubt, you know. Big mistake. It all started when I matched with this guy, let's call him Dan, on Tinder a few months ago. His profile seemed normal, decent pics, good bio, nothing too off-putting. We exchanged some messages over the app, and he came across as a pretty charming, regular guy. Witty banter, thoughtful questions about my interests, the usual flirting and getting to know you chit-chat. After a week or so of messaging, he asked if I wanted to meet up for drinks. I hesitated at first, since I prefer to talk to someone for a bit longer before meeting in person. But he seemed nice enough, so I figured why not give it a shot. We made plans to meet at a cool, low-key cocktail bar downtown at Saturday night. I took extra time getting ready, making sure my hair and makeup looked good. I chose a cute but casual first date outfit, dark skinny jeans, heeled booties, and a silky cami. I'd even spritzed on my favorite perfume, excited for the night ahead. When I arrived at the bar and didn't see Dan, I figured he was just running late. I found a small high-top table in the corner to wait. The first 15 minutes passed, then 30. After 45 minutes of waiting alone with no text or call from him, I started feeling like I had been stood up. Just as I grabbed my purse to leave, my phone lit up with a text notification. It was from Dan's number. Change of plans. Meet me at the old warehouse on 5th Street instead. I stared at the message, this uneasy feeling in the pit of my stomach. An abandoned warehouse. For a first date on a Saturday night? Yeah, I don't think so. I texted back, sorry, but I'm not comfortable with that. I think I'm just going to head home. Almost immediately, those little dots popped up showing he was typing. Then don't be like that, babe. Come on, it'll be an adventure. At that point, I'd seen enough red flags to wallpaper a mansion. I shot back a quick no thanks, take care, and promptly blocked his number. I felt relieved on the drive home, like I dodged a major bullet. But the peace of mind was short-lived. The next morning, I woke up to a barrage of text messages from an unknown number. How dare you stand me up? You'll regret this, I promise. Watch your back. On and on. Each message is more vile than the last. I blocked that number too, my heart pounding now. I hoped it was just some sick idea of a prank, but deep down I knew it was him. Dan, or whatever his name really was. I tried to push it from my mind over the next few days. Told myself he'd just been a garden variety jerk, and I was well rid of him. But I couldn't shake this uneasy, nervous feeling, like I was being watched. My worst fears were confirmed when I got home from work that Thursday. Sitting on my doorstep was a bouquet of withered dead roses wrapped in black ribbon. No note, no explanation, just the putrid stench of rotting flowers. I looked around wildly, feeling like someone had walked over my grave. This was no coincidence or mix-up. He knew where I lived and had been here while I was out. The thought of him anywhere near my home made bile rise in my throat. From then on, I took every precaution. Installed a high-tech security system, cameras covering every corner of my property. Started carrying pepper spray on my keychain and even bought a taser. I hated feeling like a prisoner in my own home, but I refused to be a helpless victim either. Just when I thought maybe it was over, the threats started up again. Only this time, instead of texts, he left disturbing voicemails from a spoof number. His voice was distorted, making the graphic messages even more chilling. Along with the voicemails came packages left on my doorstep when I was away. A tattered old teddy bear with one eye missing, an antique doll with a cracked porcelain face, a child's hair ribbon crusted in some dark substance. Each gift more twisted than the last. I changed my phone number, beefed up security even further, and stopped going out alone. But nothing helped. Friends and family thought I was being paranoid. But I knew in my gut, this wasn't just some immature prankster. This guy was dangerous. And I was right. A couple weeks later, my neighbor's dog turned up dead, its collar nailed to my front door. The police took a report, but said there was little they could do without evidence of who was responsible. I'd never felt so helpless, terrified of what this psycho would do next. Until one night, the torment abruptly stopped. A few days later, a news item about an unidentified male body found in that abandoned warehouse on 5th Street chilled me to the core. The cops couldn't confirm if the two incidents were connected, but I knew. Not long after, I moved out of that house, shedding the fear and paranoia within those walls like a snake's old skin. To this day, I still wonder sometimes about the fate of that poor soul in the warehouse. But mostly, I'm just grateful I trusted my instincts enough to escape when I did. My skin still crawls when I think how close I came to being another tragic headline. Too close for comfort, that's for sure. I still can't believe how awful my date with Sarah went last night. I was really looking forward to it too, since we had been chatting online for a few weeks and she seemed so nice. When we decided to finally meet up, I was pretty excited to see if we hit it off in person. We had planned to meet at a popular Italian restaurant downtown at 7 p.m. I got there a little before 7 and asked for a table, hoping she'd be there soon. The hostess led me to a small two-person table by the window. I sat down and checked my phone, confirming we were still on for 7. The waitress came by, and I ordered a glass of water while I waited for Sarah to arrive. I was feeling nervous, but in a good way, ready for our first date. A few minutes after 7, I texted Sarah, "I'm here at the restaurant. See you soon." She didn't respond, which I thought was a little odd. I sat there sipping my water for about 15 minutes before I started to wonder if she was even still coming. I checked my phone again, but no word from her. At 7:20, I texted, "Everything still on for tonight?" Still no reply from Sarah. I started to get a bad feeling about this date. Finally, around 7:30, I saw Sarah walking into the restaurant. She was dressed up, but didn't apologize or acknowledge being a half hour late at all. She just plopped down in the seat across from me and opened her menu without even making eye contact. I tried to break the tension by asking how her day was, but she just gave one-word answers while buried in the menu. A few minutes later, the waitress came over and Sarah ordered the most expensive entree on the menu, the $40 filet mignon. I noticed she didn't even look at the prices, which I thought was odd for a first date. I ordered the chicken parmesan to be on the more affordable side. Sarah also ordered a $12 glass of Chardonnay, while I just stuck with water. I was starting to feel a bit weird about all this, but tried not to overthink it yet. When our food came out, I attempted some small talk about the online writing class we were both taking. But Sarah hardly engaged, just giving quick aha responses, while scrolling through her phone and taking selfies. At one point, she asked the waitress to box up half her steak, even though she had only taken a few small bites of it. I felt awkward just sitting there quietly while she texted and played on social media. So much for our first date conversation. The date was already feeling like a bust at this point. But then the absolute worst part of the night came, the check. The waitress put it down on the table between us and Sarah just sat there, not even glancing at it. She was fully expecting me to pick up the $80 bill without so much as looking to pay her half. I was so put off by her entitled behavior, but I didn't want to cause a scene. I reluctantly put my card down to pay the whole expensive bill, all while Sarah just kept texting away obliviously. But then after I paid, Sarah suddenly perked up and said, "Oh my gosh, we should totally go shopping. There's a Prada store down the street. Will you buy me that cute bag I showed you?" I was completely stunned. This girl really thought I was going to buy her a $900 handbag after this extremely uncomfortable date. That was the last straw for me. I told her outright, "I think we should just call it a night." Well, she did not take that well. Right there in the restaurant, she raised her voice, causing people at other tables to stare. "Are you serious?" But I really wanted that bag. She actually started yelling at me about what a jerk I was for not buying her things. At that point, I just said, "Have a good night," and walked out as fast as I could while she followed me, still shouting. My heart was racing being literally screamed at in public like that over not spending money on a stranger. I got in my car and drove home, feeling shaky and rattled from the shocking tantrum she had thrown. When I got home, I saw my phone was flooded with nasty texts from Sarah insulting me, calling me cheap, and saying I didn't treat her well enough. I immediately blocked her number. I still can't believe sweet, friendly Sarah from our online chats turned into such an entitled monster in person. The date was an absolute nightmare from start to finish. Her behavior raised so many red flags, The lateness, lack of conversation, expensive orders, and expecting me to pay without even looking at the check. And then expecting an expensive gift on top of that, only to devolve into harassment when she didn't get her way. Unbelievable. I'm just glad I got out of that toxic situation without it escalating further. But the experience definitely left me wary and guarded about online dating again. You just never know someone's true colors until you spend time with them in person. I learned the hard way that superficial charm doesn't make up for ugly behavior. This awful date was a wake-up call to trust my instincts and watch for red flags. I'm trying to move on, but I still get angry thinking about how she acted and all those nasty texts. The audacity to demand I buy her things. I definitely won't repeat mistakes by giving someone like that any more chances. But eventually I do want to get back out there, a bit wiser and with boundaries, just maybe sticking to coffee dates for a while. At least now I got an insane disaster date story to share to make people laugh, and a lesson learned about protecting myself. But wow, that experience was just so shocking and uncomfortable. Here's hoping I never have a date go that horribly wrong again. You live and learn, I guess. I still get anxiety thinking back to that night. It was supposed to be just another first date after chatting with someone new on Tinder. Little did I know it would turn into a night of terror that I'm lucky to have escaped unharmed. When Tyler and I first started messaging on the app, he came across as a normal guy. His profile said he was 30, enjoyed hiking and going to see bands play. His photos showed an attractive, rugged-looking man with a kind smile. When he asked me out, I enthusiastically said yes. We made plans to meet at a hip local restaurant I'd been to a couple times before. I arrived early to get us a table, selecting a booth toward the back where it was a little quieter. I ordered a glass of wine and scrolled through my phone until Tyler walked in right on time. He looked just like his pictures, tall and muscular with piercing blue eyes. We exchanged some introductory small talk as we looked over the menu. So far, so good. After we ordered appetizers, though, some subtle red flags started to emerge. Tyler kept steering the conversation toward unsettling topics like notorious serial killers and gruesome industrial accidents. He seemed fascinated when I briefly mentioned getting rear-ended at a stoplight last year. I tried gently changing the subject to lighter things like travel and food, but he always brought it back to something creepy or morbid. When Tyler started asking detailed questions about my apartment building's security and what time I typically leave work, warning bells went off in my head. His friendly facade had shifted into something more intense and unnerving. I made an excuse that I needed to visit the restroom, grabbing my purse on the way. I headed to the back hallway with my heart pounding. In the bathroom, I frantically texted my best friend Jenna that the date was getting weird and I might need help getting out of there. She immediately called me and said she and her boyfriend Chris could come pick me up right away if I could sneak out the rear exit. I didn't want to return to the table, so I told her that sounded like a plan. After checking that the coast was clear, I hurried toward the back door. Suddenly, I felt a hand tightly grip my shoulder from behind. I yelped in alarm and spun around to see Tyler looming over me with a terrifying, cold expression. "Where do you think you're going?" he snarled. "Our date isn't over yet." I broke free of his hold and sprinted for the exit, my pumps clacking on the tile floor. I could hear Tyler's heavy footsteps right behind as I burst through the door into the alley, blinded by panic. About halfway down, Tyler's big frame tackled me from behind, knocking me to the filthy pavement. I screamed and tried desperately to crawl away, but he was too strong. He started dragging me back toward the shadows as I kicked and flailed. Just then, headlights cut through the alley as Jenna's car came skidding up. Chris leaped out and raced toward us, yelling at Tyler to get the hell off me. Tyler sprang up and charged at Chris, and the two started violently brawling as Jenna ran over to help pull me in the backseat, shaking and crying. After a few moments, Chris broke free and dove into the driver's seat, screeching away down the street. "It's okay, you're safe now," Jenna soothed, embracing me tightly. In shock, I clung to her in relief as we sped toward the nearest police station. There I gave a statement between shaky sobs, with Jenna and Chris describing what they had witnessed. The police said Tyler had a disturbing record of violence against women, and they would work hard to find and charge him. I decided not to press charges, wanting desperately to put the traumatic night behind me. But I'll never forget that horror. Now I take so many precautions when meeting someone new. I insist on a public place, drive myself, and make sure close friends know where I'll be. What I expected to be a fun first date turned into a terrifying ordeal at the hands of someone deeply unstable. I'm just grateful I escaped before something even more horrific occurred. I don't know what Tyler had in store for me, and hope I never find out. Going on a date shouldn't feel like risking your life. I learned that lesson the hard way, but survived to share my cautionary tale.